Hello, Sipsters. Welcome back to another episode of the Sippin' on Stories podcast with me, Mandy, your host. I'm so delighted that you're here. Last week, we had really kind of a fun story about a mom who really struggled with the thought of whether she was done having kids and had decided that she was, only to unexpectedly find herself adopting a brand new baby within 48 hours. And that was just such a fun story for me. Exciting, getting a new child in your family. It's just a good and happy thing. Well, this week we have kind of the opposite. We have Melissa, who tragically lost her baby girl very young, and she is going to tell us the story of how that happened and how she has navigated that trial in her life and how it has affected her family for years to come, and also just some other sad trials that have happened along the way. So I really appreciated this conversation with Melissa. She ended up writing a book, her and her husband, and so she talks about that book in this episode. I am linking that book in the show notes of this episode, and we'll be including pictures and things on my Instagram if you want to hop over there and take a look at the pictures to go along with Melissa's story. So here is Melissa sharing this story with us today. Thank you for saying that you'll come on and do this podcast episode with me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
To do it with you.
Okay, Melissa, I ask all of my guests what their favorite drink is. So what would yours be?
Once upon a time I would have told you that it was cherry Coke, but I really tried hard to cut soda out. And so I really love Creole Brew. It's a brewed cacao. You make it kind of like coffee in a French press.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoy that.
I know some other people that really like that as well. I've never tried it, but I've heard it's good. Okay, so Melissa, you are going to tell us the story about your children and kind of your journey with all of that. So I'm just going to let you kind of start telling it, and I'm going to ask some questions along the way, but I'm going to let you kind of lead where you want the story to go.
Okay, sounds great. So my name is Melissa Stone. I've been married to my husband Lawrence for 17 and a half years. And when we were dating and engaged, we talked about the question of kids and how many we wanted and when we wanted to start our family. And I kind of insisted that I wanted to wait until we'd finished college and had some time. But pretty quickly after we got married, that changed. And
Yeah.
Within about 6 months of us getting married, we decided to get pregnant with our first. And we had her in November of 2009. So she is 16 now. And, we were both in school. It was busy. She was the friendliest little girl. She loved everyone. And my husband and I were in classes the same semester, one semester, when she was about 9 months old. And we had to kind of work out babysitters or work out our schedules. And we were able to work it out for the most part so that we alternated who was in class. But we did have to use babysitters occasionally. And we were both music majors at BYU, Idaho. And when people that would hang out with us while we were studying or whatever, or people who would babysit would walk by her and not say hi for whatever reason, she would freak out and she'd start yelling and screaming. We had one friend who got to the other side of a building and turned around and came back to say hi because she could hear her yelling the whole way.
That's really cute.
And she's just so friendly, and she loved people and she loved everyone. And about a couple months before my husband was set to graduate and I was going to start my student teaching, I had this really strong feeling that it was time to get pregnant again. And so I got pregnant again and had my second in June of 2011. And he is 14 now. And they were about 21 months apart, and she just adored him after the initial meeting. It took a little warming up, but she loved her little brother. She loved to play with them and do all the things. And when he was 8 months old, I was working as a part-time teacher at a charter school in Utah. My husband was working full-time. and my mom was babysitting the kids. And on our way home from my mom's house in February of 2012, we were T-boned by a cement truck on a state
Wow.
highway in Utah. And I was driving a little Dodge Stratus, and so you can imagine cement truck versus Dodge Stratus. It didn't
Not good.
go in our favor. Um, and my daughter and I were both life flighted to the hospital. My son went in an ambulance. He had a minor concussion and needed some stitches on his head. And I had a whole laundry list of injuries, some that required emergent surgery. I was in the hospital for about a week, and my daughter unfortunately didn't survive the accident. Um, I woke up from a coma a day or two after the accident, kind of knowing what had happened, but not really. I was intubated. I had a collar on. It was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of some of the first things that I asked my husband, because he was right there, were, where are the kids? How are the kids? And he kept telling me, our son Edward, he was safe, he was fine. He would tell me who he was with, what was going on with him. And anytime I'd ask about our daughter, he'd tell me she's safe. And I knew what that meant, but I kind of was in a little bit of denial about it, and I was kind of in and out of consciousness for the next about 24 hours or so. And my husband didn't want to tell me what had happened until they extubated me, and they were kind of putting that off for who knows what reasons. And I'll tell you what, being intubated should not be on anyone's bucket list because it's the worst.
No. Yeah.
And and so finally, when they decided to extubate me, he told me, and the things that he wanted me to be sure, that he wanted to make sure I knew, were that nobody blamed me for what had happened, that it was an accident, and that nobody blamed me, and that she was safe. We have a really strong faith in families being together after death, and it, it helped, but it didn't. And I feel like
Yeah. Of course.
I had to face my physical recovery before I could face my emotional recovery. I was in physical therapy for the better part of a year after
Oh wow.
everything, and it was it took a lot. And after that happened, I kind of told my husband that I didn't think that I wanted to have any more kids because I didn't want even the possibility of a miscarriage or a stillbirth. I couldn't.
Yeah. I can imagine that'd be terrifying. The thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like I couldn't face that kind of pain again. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband was extremely patient with me, and he said, well, I feel like there's more children for our family, um, but you take your time, and we can discuss this when you're a little less emotional. And
What was
I
your
came back.
daughter's name?
Her name is Ethne.
Very beautiful.
Thank you. Um, so several months later, I came back to him and I said, okay, I'm ready to talk about it. And we talked it out and decided that maybe I could handle it. And a little over a year after the accident, I got pregnant again and had my third baby. His name's Joseph. And he was born with a life-threatening birth defect. And it was
Oh really?
happy joy. Yeah, it was tough. He
Did you know when you were pregnant with him, or did you not find out till after?
So the birth defect was something that you can't detect before they're born.
Okay.
It's called Hirschsprung's disease. If you want to look it up, that's cool.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
I'm not going to air his struggles, although we
Mm-hmm.
talked about it on some other podcasts. But he had to have surgery twice before he was 6 months old, and was in the NICU for a couple of weeks. And um, to a certain extent, my husband carried me after we lost our daughter, and he really kind of helped me take those baby steps to move forward and to kind of work through all of the things. And I feel like to a certain extent, after we had our son and he was in the NICU and everything, I kind of held my husband's hand through that because he blamed himself a lot. Because after the diagnosis, we kind of learned that he has kind of a lot of family history with the condition.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has an uncle with it. His mom has cousins with it. it was a lot to learn after the fact, but I mean, it's not something that you think about because it's kind of rare. And
Mm-hmm.
so we got through that, and when he was close to 2 years old, we got pregnant with our next baby, and that's our daughter Afton. And you never realize how excited you can be for normal bodily functions until you have a baby who can't perform those bodily functions. And um, so when she didn't have any issues when she was born, we were really excited. Um, and then when she was around 14, 15 months old, we found out I was pregnant again. And this wasn't exactly planned, but
Mm-hmm.
you go through the emotions and you feel a little bit nervous. But ultimately, we were excited, and we kind of figured this would be our last baby. We had kind of talked about having 3 to 5 kids. This would be number 5. And so we were kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is it. And when I was about 14, 15 weeks pregnant with him, I had this dream that I went in for that big anatomy scan, and they couldn't find the heartbeat. And it stuck with me. Like those pregnancy dreams, they can make you crazy.
Yeah, and they're intense.
Yeah.
And so you remember them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it really stuck with me. And so I hunted down a Doppler and tried to use it, but those things are tricky. And
Mm-hmm.
they say that you can't feel babies move before certain step places in your pregnancy, and but the more babies you have, the more familiar you become with those kind of flutters and those feelings. And I knew I had felt this baby move, and a few days before, so it was a Friday, and I was supposed to have my ultrasound on a Monday. I It just hit me that I hadn't felt him move in probably about a week, maybe more, and I really wanted to get it checked out. And so I called my doctor's office, and it was kind of close to the end of the day, and I could tell they didn't really want me to come in, but I was like, no, something's up. I really need to be seen. And so they were like, yeah, we can squeeze you in. You need to be here at this time. And so I was like, okay, I'll be there. And I had my other 3 kids with me. And, you know, the doctor just wasn't the kindest about it because it was the end of the day and he didn't know me and he didn't want to be there. And so
Mm-hmm.
he checked for the heartbeat and couldn't find one. And then he used a portable ultrasound machine and still couldn't find one. And so he's like, okay, we'll get you an ultrasound, like a big ultrasound. And so at that point, I called my mom and I called my husband and like, it's, something's up. And they got me in for the ultrasound. And I just remember when the tech couldn't find the heartbeat and I yelled, I can't do this again.
Yeah.
And they took me to a room and the doctor tried to explain the options, but he wasn't very good at it. And the other thing he kept saying was, this is so rare because I was 18 weeks and second trimester losses between 18 and about 30, 32 weeks. 18 and what is that? Second trimester. It's been a long time since I was pregnant. Anyways, they're rare. They happen in less than like 2% of pregnancies, especially at that stage. And he kept telling me how rare it was, and it wasn't helpful.
Yeah. No, that doesn't help the situation at all. It almost makes it worse.
Yeah. And
I felt like, yeah.
and he wasn't very good at explaining my options. And so I went home and I called my uncle who's an OB, and he told me, you have 2 options. You can either have a DNC, in which case you have no remains. There's nothing to test. There's no way to find out what happened. There's no body. You don't get to bury anything. It's medical waste. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you're far enough along, you can deliver, and then you have a body to bury. You can do an autopsy if you so desire to figure out what happened. And I was 18 weeks and knew that I needed to bury my baby. And
Oh, yeah.
so I was induced and delivered him. He was less than a pound, about 8 ounces, fit in the palm of my hand, just itty bitty. And we named him Thomas, and he would have turned 8 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the cemetery where my daughter is buried, they have kind of a high water table, and so they don't typically allow stacking of graves. But because his casket was so small, they allowed us to stack him with his sister. So,
Oh, that's really sweet.
yeah, they're buried together. And my husband carried me again.
I can't imagine. At this point, how many years? You've been married, what, like, how many years at this point?
It was about 9 years at that point.
Yeah, that is so many things for you and your husband to have to go through together in such a short amount of time. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, he told me after we lost Anthony that he remembered that when he was in high school, a fellow student had passed away, and his mom told him that people were watching his friend's parents because losing a child ends in divorce. Like, it's like 65% of the time, it's the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And they were watching to see what happened with his parents because they were kind of on the rocks before the loss. And right then and there, when he remembered this, he determined that we would go the distance, that we wouldn't lose our marriage and we wouldn't lose our family. And we've worked hard. We've worked really hard together to support each other and to help each other through grief, because it's different for everyone, and especially for men and women. Like,
yeah, you can really grieve totally opposite ways.
Yeah, my husband felt like.
Did you and your husband grieve?
Oh yeah,
sorry. Like, were you opposite grievers?
More or less. I was crying all the time, and I needed to talk, and he was more stoic and felt like he couldn't cry and couldn't show how much he was struggling, because then I might feel like he was too weak, or
like he needed to be strong for you guys.
Yeah. And it kind of, as I started kind of coming out of it and finding my faith again and kind of gaining a little bit more strength and a little more traction for myself, he kind of started what he felt like was regressing, and really came to some powerful realizations for himself about his faith and his belief in God and all the things that he was wrestling with at the time. And honestly, when he told me about the struggles that he was having, it was really reassuring to me that I wasn't broken, that it was okay that I was experiencing these things, because he was experiencing them just a little later than I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so just he has told me, and a lot of people told us this, especially kind of early on. We had a blog that my aunt set up, and we maintained that for a couple years. And he told me that he had this thought pop into his head that he needed to write things down and journal and remember what was happening, because one day we would write a book. And
did he think this after the loss of your son?
After our daughter.
Okay, after.
And so it only took about 10 years to get started, but
okay.
We did start writing a book eventually. And part of the problem was I had a traumatic brain injury, and so focusing and writing and journaling wasn't something that was helpful for me, because it made me, honestly, like, it gave me,
that's hard.
Made me feel sick. But it was also hard to write that stuff down. And meanwhile, it was really helpful for him to journal and write stuff out a lot. And so he has journals from, kind of some of those years, but I really didn't. But after some wailing and gnashing of teeth on my part, he convinced me to sit down and start writing and working on a book. And we actually released it this last September, to share that it's okay to grieve in your own way, and that all kinds of grief hits everybody in different ways, and kind of how to help support, especially a spouse, through grief. So it's written from his perspective and my perspective. And
do you like tag team write it, or is it like one chapter is you, one chapter is his, type of back and forth?
So it was tag teamed. So like,
okay.
in each chapter, for the most part, there's a couple chapters that are only him or only me. but in each chapter you hear a little bit of his side of things and a little bit of my side of things, and then kind of some of the lessons that we learned and some of the takeaways to help support people who may be experiencing grief. And it's applicable particularly to people who have lost children, but we've had a lot of people who have experienced grief from other losses in other ways, parents, siblings, even friends and things like that, that have said that
Mm-hmm.
they've found really valuable insights in there as well, and that it's supported
That's
them.
really special. And what is that book called?
It's called Our Story, and then it has a parenthetical S, so it's Our Stories, because it is two
Oh,
different
mm-hmm.
stories in one. And so,
Yeah, you'll have to send me like a link to it, and
yeah, absolutely.
I can link it. Yeah.
It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and there's a paperback copy. I have some right here, actually. This is what it looks like.
How long would you say? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty. How long would you say it took you to write that book?
It took us, honestly, it was about a 3-year process between getting everything written and then editing and proofreading and beta reading and then editing and revising again, and then the formatting for Amazon and all of the things. It was about a 3-year process. We did
Mm-hmm.
submit it to a couple publishers, and that was part of what took a long time, because it takes publishers a long time to get back to you.
Oh, yeah, I imagine.
And my husband was finally like, I'm tired of playing this waiting game. I just want to get it out there, so let's self-publish. So we self-published through Amazon.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, like, through the grieving process, through all of it, like, what have been, like, your main things that have gotten you through, would you say? Like, in your book, or just, like, thinking back, what are, like, maybe 3 things that you would say have been super, like, important to you and your husband as you've gone through these experiences?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, journaling was really important to my husband, especially early on. And in the last several years, journaling has become more important to me, especially gratitude journaling. And people give us funny looks when we say this. And this was only something that I've really come around to in the last about three or 4 years, is that you have to find gratitude for even the hard, crappy things that you would want to go back and change if you could, like losing a child,
Yeah.
and finding gratitude for maybe the lessons that you've learned that you probably wouldn't have learned otherwise. I would give anything to have my 2 children back.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that I've learned along the way that I wouldn't have learned. And finding gratitude for those things has been really hard, but it's been healing in a lot of ways.
How has it been, like, through your faith? I know you said you guys have both had your own, like, faith challenges, I guess, along the way, and finding it again. Did you ever, like, completely lose your faith during these times, or was it there, just not as strong, or did it get stronger even more after?
Um, for me, I came close. I was
Mm-hmm.
extremely angry for a long time, especially after my daughter, and then after I felt like I had expressed to God that I couldn't endure something like this again, and then here it was again, losing this baby. And that was a really dark, really difficult time for me. But I do feel like I've come back stronger in a way. One of the insights that my husband gained when he was kind of struggling was that the things that we believe in, the church that we belong to, is true. And even if faith is a struggle, just believing has a power in itself, and that belief isn't less than faith. That belief can be enough too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that got both of us through, because when he shared that with me, it was like, oh, okay, it's okay if I feel like I don't have the faith, but if I believe, it's enough. Um, so we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, And something that was really important to us prior to losing our daughter was going to the temple and participating in those things. And after we lost her, it felt like we kept being pulled back and pulled back. Um, and like his sister left on a mission a couple months after, and there were weddings and different things that kept drawing us back to the temple. And so being in that really sacred space um, also helped a lot to kind of keep us going. Um, um, another thing that was really important was getting a little bit of counseling. After after we lost our daughter, I had a lot of people telling me, just even within months, that I needed to see a counselor. And I'm kind of a people pleaser. And so I was like, fine, I'll go, even though I didn't feel like I was ready for it yet. And
Mm-hmm.
if I knew then some of the things I know now, it probably would have gone a little better for me. But I went to a counselor through LDS Family Services, and she didn't know what to do with me. She just kind of
Oh,
made me
really?
sob for an hour, and I'd leave with the biggest headache and snot running down my face, and uh, and I only went maybe 4 times because it wasn't worth it to just go and cry when I could just cry at home.
Yeah.
And now I know that when you're seeking counseling, especially for a traumatic event, you want to find someone who has at least experienced something somewhat similar to what you have. It doesn't have to be identical, but similar. So if you've lost a child and you're looking for a counselor to help you through that grief and that trauma and everything, you want to find a counselor who has maybe also lost a child or lost someone extremely close to them. Um, and after that experience, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth for therapy, but
I don't blame you.
but at the same time, people kept telling me that I needed to see a therapist. And then I don't even remember what prompted it, but the U of U hospital down in Utah puts on counseling groups, like therapy groups for a variety of different kinds of losses and traumas and stuff. And one of the groups that they do is for parents who've lost children. And you can attend at any time in after you've lost a child. You can choose to go. It was cheap and it felt like it was maybe a better fit. And so about 4 or 5 months after the accident, I went to my husband. I said, I really want to do this. I think that this would be good. I want you to come with me. And he was a guy and he didn't want to go because he didn't want to talk about his feelings and get mushy in front of a bunch of
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah. Stereotypical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he also knew that if he didn't come with me, I wouldn't go. And so he decided to go with me, and it wound up being beneficial for both of us. The facilitator was a man who had lost his teenage son, and there were 3 other women and another couple in the group. And unfortunately, the couple, I think they felt like they didn't fit in because they lost an infant to SIDS, and all of us had lost like toddlers and up. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that really stood out to my husband was that other than that couple that came the first week and then didn't come again, none of the other husbands ever came. And pretty much every week, at least one of the other women would talk about how she wished her husband would come and how she thought she had him convinced to come the next week and then he wouldn't show. And he realized the benefit for himself, but also that he was there for me to help me and to remind me of some of the things that we had discussed and we had learned and to help support me in that way. So anyone who's grieving, I do encourage some form of counseling in one way or another, even if it's just talking to maybe a friend who has also had a miscarriage or participating in a group setting like that.
Did you also do therapy after your miscarriage or
No,
counseling? No.
no, I never did. Um, Probably would have been a good idea, but I never did.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I started writing and journaling a little bit more after that, and I also found other tools to help me kind of cope after I lost him. Um, the last thing that I feel like has really helped is to to look outside of myself. Um, a lot of a lot of grievers talk about how it gets really frustrating when people say everything happens for a reason, find purpose in your pain, and those things are really, really frustrating. But there's some truth to it. It's not something that you want to hear, but finding finding a way to look outside of ourselves really helped us deal with our loss. Shortly after losing our daughter, my mom suggested that we find a way to support other parents who had also lost children. And so that's something we've been doing for 13 years. And the way that we did it back then was I would make bracelet sets for mothers and daughters, matching bracelet sets, and then we donated
Oh.
them to Primary Children's Hospital. And they ran out of them so fast, and it was so heartbreaking to hear how quickly they ran out of them. We made bracelets from itty bitty for like stillborn babies, like mine was, up to like
Yeah.
teenage size because they serve all the way up to teenagers there.
That is a really, really sweet idea. Something that I think would be so easy to do, but also how meaningful for those moms and yeah, the daughters to have that. That's really sweet.
Yeah, so it was something that they could have matching that the mom could carry with her and
Yeah.
bury with her baby. Or I know some mothers had their children cremated, and so they'd put it like on around their urn, or even have it
Yeah.
cremated with them and keep it with their ashes. Um, and so that was one of the things we did, was to kind of look outside of ourselves. After a few years, we decided to start doing service projects for Ethne's birthday, and we try to do as many service projects as she would be old. And so I think the first year we did it was when she would have turned 5, and so we shot for 5 service projects. And some of the service projects we've done are serving in the temple. We buy gifts that we would have bought for her and donate them to causes like foster care and that kind of stuff. Um, the really big service projects that we've done has been providing meals at Ronald McDonald House, um, because when my middle son was in the NICU, we really relied heavily on the Ronald McDonald Room at Primary Children's. It was
Hmm.
a refuge. We were able to get free meals, and so we turned back around and did that. We've also like made donations to after school programs and those kinds of things. Made and even things as simple as making more of an effort to smile at people when you see them out and about, um, have been some of the things that we've done. Um, and so finding a way to kind of look outside of yourself and not wallow in your grief, because it can be really, really easy to wallow. Trust me, I did for a long time.
Yeah. And that's beautiful because it involves her in the process. Like it saying you're doing as many service projects as she is old. It's like it's a way to have her with you while you're doing those things. I just think that that's really sweet and precious. I'm trying real hard not to cry over here, but
It's okay.
no, it's really pretty, really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just we wanted a way to exemplify what she was to us, and she loved everyone. She,
Mm-hmm.
the only person that she ever was unfriendly to was when we moved from Idaho to Utah so I could do my student teaching, and it was our first week in our new church congregation in our new ward. And we were sitting kind of in the back, and an older woman saw her kind of running up the aisle, and she turned around and smiled at her, and my daughter stopped dead in the aisle, stomped her foot, and yelled no, and then ran back to us. And it was because it was kind of scary when she was little, because she would go to strangers
Yeah.
and she would give anybody a hug and smile at anyone. And so we wanted to share the love that she had for everyone in a way that was meaningful. And so that's why service was a big part of celebrating her and her life.
And how long ago was it though, or then that your son passed?
So he would be 8.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, and you said you've had a 5-year-old, correct?
Yeah, so I did have one after him. I I told my husband done, no more, not
Yeah.
happening. And you know, God works in mysterious ways, and over time, He softened me to the idea, and then I had a COVID baby, and those COVID
Oh,
babies are a different breed.
they are. Yeah. Was it a boy or a girl?
Boy,
Okay. Was he born like in 2020 or were you pregnant through 2020?
he was born May of 2020.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there.
Was that healing in a way to have him
Yes,
after?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the years between losing Thomas and having my youngest, we actually moved back to Idaho, and it was moving back to Idaho was really what was the catalyst that led me to saying, okay, yes, I think we can have one more. There were just, I think, some things between maybe being worried, or some irrational fear that if I got pregnant again living in Utah, where we had in this home where we had lost this baby, that it would happen again, or
Mm.
I mean, there were some other circumstances that I, now looking back, I feel like had we lived in Utah with when those things came up, because they didn't come up until after we moved back to Idaho, I would have kind of got sucked into those things and probably wouldn't have had my last baby. And so moving to Idaho, there were so many things that just fell into place when we moved to Idaho that kind of were like, okay, yes, this is, you need to go ahead with this and have one more baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't trade him for the world, as crazy as he is and as busy as he
Those
keeps
youngest
everything.
children, too, they are. Yeah, my youngest, she rules the house.
Yes,
So
he does.
she's 4, and yep, it is. Yeah, I got pregnant with her during COVID, so I didn't have her during COVID, but still, she fits right along in there with them. So,
Yeah,
well, this was. I feel very humbled that you shared this story with me, and I really appreciate you talking about it. I'm sure it's not easy to talk about, but also, do you love any opportunity you have to talk about them?
absolutely. You know, when
Yes.
we have a lot of people over the years who ask us, you know, because they know our story. We've been pretty open about it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized very early on that I couldn't deny my children that weren't here on Earth with me. A lot of parents who've lost children really struggle with that. You know, how many kids question, and really struggle with how do I answer that. And some choose
Mm-hmm.
to exclude any children that they may have lost, and that's great for them if that's what works for them, and if that's what allows them to move on and to heal and to do the things that they need to do. And some, you know, it's situational whether they share about those babies or not, and that's great too. And for a little while, that's what I did, but I kind of realized that I needed to include them, that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel right not sharing about them all the time. And part of that is keeping their memories alive. When people ask us, what can we do to support someone who's lost a child, we always tell them kind of three things. The first is that if you're going to offer any kind of service or anything, to be very specific in what you're offering. Say, I want to bring you dinner. Does Tuesday or Thursday night work better? Or I'm sending you groceries. I'm going to send you milk and bread and cheese. Do you need anything else? You know, because when you're in the throes of grief and trying to process all of that, it's really hard to focus and concentrate and to think about, oh, yeah, I do need to eat dinner. And so
Mm-hmm.
having someone say, I'm giving you dinner, what night works best, and only give them a few options, that helps a lot. Um, Another thing that we tell people is to say their names, because we haven't forgotten that they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, well, we don't want to make you sad, we don't want to make you cry. But we haven't forgotten that they're gone, and it helps.
And saying their name can remind you that other people haven't forgotten either.
Yep, absolutely. Exactly it.
Yeah. Being on the other side, I feel like that makes complete sense. But I think it is like natural instinct for people to be like, oh, I don't want to bring up hard things. But like you said, that is your life. That's not reminding you of something. It is reminding you that you're not alone and that somebody cares. And so, yeah, I think those are great pieces of advice.
Yeah. So thank you for letting me talk about my babies and to share our story and to talk a little bit about our book. I mean, we just hope that it helps at least one person.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm going to link it for anybody to buy it. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on. It was really nice to meet you.
Yes, you too. Thank you for having me.
And of course, you have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You have a great night.
The things that some people have to go through, I just cannot stop thinking about how strong some people are. And I know that when you go through experiences like this, you don't always want to hear like that you're strong. But on my end, like really, I just think of how strong these people are and how strong Melissa and her husband are. And I'm so just impressed with them and proud of them for the things that they have done to honor their daughter and just make something positive out of it. So I did tell her that I would link the book. So I will be linking that on my Instagram account. I will link the book. I will also have it in the show description for this podcast as well. You can find it there if you're interested in looking into that. And yeah, you can also find some pictures on Instagram that I will be posting along with this episode. I'm really grateful that Melissa came on. This is just one of those things that, once again, I just feel so humbled to be able to have these types of conversations with people about these hard things that they have walked through in this life. And so I'm grateful for Melissa. If you have a story that you would like to share with me on the podcast, please reach out to me at Sippin' on Stories Podcast on Instagram, sippinonstoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to me both of those places and I will get back to you. And I would love to have you on the podcast. I hope you have a great week. I will talk to you again next week. Bye, Sipsters.